Hey guys, Bottom 25, you're watching the launch of CSO-2 on a Soyuz from French Guiana. There it is.
Tremendous focus right now, and every launch is a technical and collective launch that is quite unique.
It's always unique.
This is the most tense moment in the chronology. Liftoff is really a very special moment indeed.
So,
there we go, first umbilical is pulled back.
Witnessing this liftoff, we see the first mast pulling away from the launch vehicle. We will now remain silent during the liftoff and we'll be back in a few moments.
There's the second umbilical. Okay, ignition. There we go, now the engines are ramping up to full power. There we go, there's full power, almost full power, and there she goes. God love that we have an old Soviet era launch. Most of the Soviet era launch vehicle launching out of Guyana. See, it did a bit of a roll. Some of the early Soyuzes couldn't do that. All the early Soyuzes or R7s couldn't do that. The actual pad had to be rotated. And immediately flies into some clouds. There she goes. This is an Earth observation satellite, I believe from military use. And it's going to be put into a sun-synchronous orbit. I believe they're tracking it because there it is. I was going to say because they expect to get a visual of it again.
So you see our cameras are still tracking the Soyuz, the launcher beyond the clouds canopy with its engines. So can we describe in detail this atmospheric phase of the launch?
Yes, the atmospheric flight sequence is flight phase is said to be quite set. It doesn't change from flight to flight. The objective is really to guarantee the structural resilience of the launcher with a nil angle of attack here, nil inclination, and the monitoring of this whole flight is authorized and made possible thanks to a very important operation, which is that of CBI. This is the real-time visual control, and these controls that checks that the flight is nominal, that is as expected, and allows to tell the clients and confirm to the clients that the flight has gone as planned. So data comes via the downward branch stations spread all over the world, and will be these centers
announce the separation of the boosters.
There we go, got a lovely correlative cross.
And this is happening right in front of your eyes. We've just seen the separation of the 4 boosters.
I believe this is probably also of this and maybe Vostochny, where the boosters don't actually fall back to land.
Over half of its weight is totally nominal, according to plan.
Confirmation of separation of lateral boosters.
So Remy is connected to the CBI, so throughout the video transmission you will be relaying any confirmation or milestones announced by the CBI. A few words about what is at the top of the launcher, that is the fairing.
And to clarify that we don't always see these separations so just as clearly as we've just seen.
It's incredible.
The cross is a beautiful thing that's hold over in the days of Sputnik.
Any fairing is there is designed to protect the satellite from air frictions in the atmospheric phase, and when we reach the limit of the atmosphere, and when we reach space, we no longer need a structure to protect satellites. So we'll shed will separate the fairing, shedding weight in the process.
Also, we might actually get to see a first stage separation as well.
Part of the mission.
And as we fly into the sky, we remove the dead weights.
Absolutely, this is a very principle of the launch operations, and this is quite an essential sequence, because can you imagine if the fairing doesn't work properly, then and when we want to separate the satellite. I think
That
we
looks
have
like very little
problem.
for second stage
Quite so,
burn.
the separation of the fairing is a very important
believe
event
this is
with the
time.
two half fairings splitting apart. We could talk more about the specificity of this fairing as the Special Tropical.
Absolutely, this fairing has been developed in cooperation with Russia in the framework of Soyuz cooperation in French Guiana, and the objective was to have an equivalent
Okay,
volume
so
to
separation
that
good.
under the Ariane 4 fairing. So that's 11 meter in height, 4
There goes the
meters in
fairings.
diameters in terms of this
And the
fairing.
vehicle's
And you
pitching
can say
up a
is
little.
the manufacturer of these fairings.
You can actually
And
see
here
the
this
fairings
is
falling away on
simulation
the,
that has,
on the feed there.
point this out.
And we're almost
but
at
we need
a
to
block A
wait for
separation, which is the
confirmation.
core stage.
And as you just said,
I presume the reason the vehicle's pitching up is to give a bit
fairing.
more
As Raphael
height
indicated,
to the
this is a very
second stage.
important stage in this process.
Of course, this
Just
thing is well
pointed
past the
out,
camera line now.
the
There's
images we
cut
see,
off.
the 3D
In reality, the way
images
this
we have on
happens is
screen
the
are
second
according
stage
to
ignites
program, and
first.
we've just
These are hot staging
seen
method.
the extinction of the lower stage and the hot separation, that is the upper engine has switched on, and Soyuz is continuing on its way. It's the hot separation, as we call it.
Confirmation of separation of Block A.
So it's a sun-synchronous orbit. We went straight towards the north with Soyuz. During these, it's like the ball of yarn that runs regularly above the north and the
This
south
is a
pole.
low orbit, a circular orbit between 400 and 900 kilometers in altitude. It is very often used by Earth's observation satellite, and what's unique about it is that satellites will fly over a specific spot in the air of Paris, let's say every day at 2 p.m. It's very handy because you can take pictures at a given location, same conditions of sunlight, and you can compare and contrast images one after the other. And this is also why we're aiming at a defined moment on liftoff, because it is like a on-spot locations, on right locations, on the right moment.
Thank you for these explanations. We now join Anthony Blue in Kourou, who met Cyril Poitras. I'm here with Cyril Poitras. You are Mission Director for Air and Space. How did the campaigns for the CSO-25 went dormant for 10 months? How did you organize Air and Space?
Well, the first question we looked into was that whether we should the satellites in Guyana when given the costs and technical constraints, it was decided to lead the satellite to the Guyana Space Center, then the checkout test equipment, electronic base, and now the implementation of the satellite. So very quickly it was decided to return these to Toulouse as a part of the construction of the third satellite, CSO-3.
So could you give us a few examples of operations?
Well, cryostat is an example. It is a cooling device for the satellite, very sensitive equipment. And in June and in August, teams from Toulouse came to French Guiana to carry out maintenance activity of this cryostat.
10 months is a long time. Did you have to redo everything?
Absolutely, all operations resumed, notably activities related to maintenance of satellites and the satellite equipment had a lifespan that had been expired, and notably the pyrotechnic devices required the opening of a solar array, and these activities, these operations came to speed in the second part of this campaign.
It's just between Christmas and New Year for the teams also. It must have been quite complicated.
I'd like to stress the extreme commitment of the teams both from the Guyana Space Center and the Russian teams, because this period is favorable to resting with family, but the objectives for in space was to have 2 liftoffs for Soyuz and Vega. It was the end of the year, and everything went well.
And tomorrow will be also a very important day.
Yes, first day of chronology for Soyuz, and it's quite special because between transfer launch to liftoff, that's 4 days, and all activities are perfectly identified in its schedule to the very minute.
Thank you so much, Cyril. Back to Paris and the studio to follow the rest of the show. Thank you, Anthony. Well, indeed, Soyuz is still on track. You heard the DDO. It's like giving us the main thread. Everything is nominal. Everything is going according to plan. Soon will be the separation of Block I. It has already happened, actually. It's going so fast. And now
we have confirmation of separation of Block I. Soyuz has now done his job by injecting the frigate on a suborbital orbit.
So the nose module is the upper composite, that is frigate, with, of course, the CSO satellite hooked onto it. So Soyuz is injecting the upper composite onto a sub-orbit intermediate.
Yes, as Remy stated, the 3 stages completed its mission. The frigate is kind of considered as a payload like any other for the launcher, and will take over and will take the satellite on its operational and circular orbit. For the time being, we are on an intermediate trajectory, suborbital orbit, as Remy stated.
And in a few moments, we will see the first ignition of the frigate.
Orbital
vehicle will be happening on, just according to plan, it's happening right now. So the first boost or first burn, as we should say. So clarifications about this this upper stage.
So pre-burn, nominal pre-burn, and that's the frigate now. It is kind of the ideal stage. It is a super light stage, and a 1 ton is particularly reliable and accurate, most importantly. Its capacity is to allow to take care of long, lengthy coasting phase, and it is a result of the Russian space probe to Mars, Phobos 1 and 2. And so we're talking 1988. The intermediate stage was developed in the stage itself was developed in the 90s, and with an implementation as of the years 2000. So we have confirmation of first burn of the frigate. The advantage of this frigate is its capacity to restart up to 20 times. So this capacity allows to deliver extremely versatile, complex missions. With Soyuz frigate, we carried out all possible and imaginable missions, as in tonight, in low orbit, and 20,000 kilometers intermediate orbit, such as Galileo, GTO launches from Guyana as well. And that was with Soyuz in 2017. Then iconic missions on a liberation orbit, such as Mars and Venus Express. So yes, indeed, as Remy mentioned, this capacity to deliver lengthy coasting phase, and very important to deep constellation.
And in passing, this will be the case for the new launcher, Ariane 6, the new launcher to come, which will also have a restartable engine or stage. But without further ado, we join Beatrice Romero, a project manager for Aerospace. She was interviewed just a few days ago.
Bonjour, Pierre.
Hello, Pierre.
So I would like to know, how did this mission unfold at Arianespace?
Mission preparation was, in fact, started, in fact, at the same time as the CSO-1 preparation, as we carried out a preliminary series of analyses discovering both orbits. And we started right after CSO-1, the specific studies for the launch of this mission tonight. And we took advantage of all the experience we gained on the occasion of CSO-1 for this campaign. And now we are, in parallel to that, we are now working on the third satellite of the constellation, CSO-3, to be launched in 2022.
So CSO is the continuation of the Helios program that was launched by Arianespace. Now, in a nutshell, could you tell us why and how Arianespace developed this expertise to the benefit of both European and French institutions?
Indeed, Arianespace, since it was created in 1980, has always been of service of European institutions for the launch of military satellites, as well as scientific and governmental satellites. CSO-2 will be the 45th satellite to launch 4 French institutions, but we've launched up to 139 if you take into account the various missions for various European entities who have further missions in our audit book of this type, such as Copnos Canet for the Ministry of Defense in Italy, scientific satellites such as James Webb, and we use biomass as well as satellites for Earth observation for Biometsat, the European operator. Let's not forget the Galileo constellation. So to sum up, Ariane Space, thanks to its range of launch vehicles, allows to offer independent access to space for all of our European partners.
Well, you're right, Beatrice. Europe can count on Ariane Space. Thank you for all this, and we'll let you go and join your teams, and anyone will join on D-Day for the launch. Goodbye. So Beatrice is in the fishbowl right now, like many others, but before we go back to watch a film on the presentation of the mission by the flight directors, or the program directors rather. So you're joining us in Kourou in the Jupiter Mission Control Room with Mr. Paul Aber, the CSO Project Manager for CNES, and Pierre-Emmanuel Martinez, Satellite CSO Satellite Manager for CNES as well. First of all, a question for you. What is the role of CNES on this CSO project in particular, vis-à-vis the end customer, which is DGA?
Well, CNES is the delegation of our project management, which means that we take care of the full management of systems from end to end, satellites, the ground control segment controls, as well as routing operations and maintenance in operational conditions until the end of its life, since the Helios 1A that was launched 25 years ago. CNES has developed a trusting relationship with DGA, in which we implement synergies to best respond to the needs of defense users. Major innovations were injected into all areas to meet performance requirements, and in particular increased responsiveness compared to previous generations.
And now Pierre-Emmanuel Martinez, the CSO Satellite Manager. What are the specificities of CSO-2 versus CSO-1?
Well, both satellites, CSO-1 and CSO-2, are of identical design. Only the adjustment of the focusing of the optical instruments, different, and CSO-2 will be placed into orbit at 480 kilometers, so twice closer to the Earth than CSO-1 at 800 kilometers. Images will therefore be way higher in terms of resolutions, and so very much weighted satellites by our defense operators.
This campaign was quite special. What could you say about the way it went versus the initial CSO-1 campaign?
First of all, we benefited from the experience gained during the CSO-1 campaign, allowing us to be more efficient. Of course, nothing could protect us from the impact of the pandemic. So we started with the satellite here in Guyana, and with the CNES and CG teams, we found appropriate solutions compatible with satellite requirements. They set up organizations to ensure the continuity of campaign activities while respecting health measures.
And now for the last question, Paul Albury, what is your own perception of this customer relationship with Ariane Space?
So Ariane Space has been supporting us with great loyalty for many years, particularly with the launch of CSO-1 in December 2018. A particularly demanding customer with regards to security constraints, as you can imagine, and these are particularly stringent for this type of mission. Together, we've defined suitable arrangements compatible with our requirements, and we are very satisfied with work accomplished.
You will miss the first shutdown of Fregat.
Back to work for the last few days before the launch. Very important phase. Thank you, gentlemen, and over to you in Paris for the rest of the show. Thank you, Raphael. Let's talk about cooperation with Russia. It dates back to the 1960s.
Indeed, 1966, precisely when General de Gaulle was the first, became the first European leader to attend 2 launches on one day from Baikonur launch pads, and he was so impressed that he decided to initiate his first intergovernmental agreement for a peaceful for space programs, and this led in 1996 to the creation of the Russian-European company Starsem, and with iconic missions delivered in the years 2000, which I've already mentioned, such as Mars Express and Venus Express missions. And all these success stories fed the idea of getting Soyuz to Guyana, having Soyuz and launch facilities in Guyana with 2011 marking the first year when a Soyuz lifted up from Guyana. So having a Soyuz vehicles lifting off is quite a unique example of international cooperation in space.
Clearly so. I didn't want to interrupt you, but we just witnessed the switching off.
Confirmation of extinction of the frigate stage. The frigate is subjected itself into an elliptic or transfer orbit, and then entering a coasting phase of about 35 minutes. Within a few seconds, we'll be losing visibility from the Centibear's downrange tracking station. That's absolutely normal. That's as planned as we'll enter into an inactive
Okay, so for Soyuz launches, Air and Space can count on several launch pads. That's important.
In fact, Air and Space has access to 3 different launch pads: the CSG in French Guiana, and we carried 25 launch on board Soyuz tonight with Baikonur. This is the historical launch pad of Soyuz with Starsem. We carried out 28 launch up until now, and the latest one in Vostochny, and we carried out the first Starsem Einspace launch on the 18th of December, just 11 days ago. Time flies. So we deployed 36 satellites for the benefit of the OneWeb constellation. So again, from one extreme to the other, plus 30 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees Celsius, depending on the launch pads.
With the gantry, which is in Vostok East, the latest launch pad, Soyuz launch pad, they reused the ID that Air and Space had developed for its customers the same way. We have the gantry to integrate it vertically.
Absolutely. It was a good idea of the developed on the launch pad in French Guiana. The mobile gantry was to protect from weather conditions quite compelling here. 30 degrees plus 30 degrees is quite significant. And in fact, this mobile gantry idea, the Russians liked it so much that it was integrated into Vostochny's launch facilities at minus 30 degrees Celsius to protect, to improve working conditions in 60 different ways.
So right away we have a film describing the architecture of the CSO system. It's important, and the way the stations are organized, the ground tracking stations like Kiruna and Cray.
L'acquisition et la
Acquisition and distribution of CSO imagery for users mainly involve 3 entities. The main user center in Crail, connected to partner centers, is endowed with a direct antenna, and facilities the control center in Toulouse, Apollo station in Coruna. Every user center collects and hierarchizes all the requests from defense organizations and operation units in theaters of operations. These requests are forwarded to the communications center via Crail, access portal for the CSO program.
Well, we get the idea of how spy satellites work. That's what this thing in essence is.
Scheduling for the next day, strictly abiding to international
do my best to come back for
protocols. It's integrated
some
to
further
the CSO system via the Kiruna station. Every satellite executes the imagery and sends images. It depends on flying over opportunities after processing of data in Crail. Images are sent to the important visibility for the second.
Okay guys, we're almost at the second burn of the frigate.
Let's have a look at this second burn. It's just ignited. We are right spot on for the second burn of the frigate.
It's going to be a relatively short burn, I believe.
Confirmed. So it's a very short burn, isn't it?
Indeed, a very short burn. This simulation is seeing here, well, is a simulation we need to make confirmation of the second frigate burn. It will be very brief. Confirmation of the ignition frigate is extremely short, and it is invisibility, and the purpose is really to get this real push to synchronize the orbit.
Real slow. I'm just gonna skip ahead there because I missed
pit
this.
stop in space to us to position, inject into orbit various satellites from different locations.
So in a few moments it will be the separation of the Soyuz and Jet. In what state of mind
There it is.
are you right now?
There is the separation.
This is key moment. Lots of concentrations. Maybe this is combination of all this.
Just have confirmation of screen. So if this is a 3D image according to the flight program, you will have to wait for confirmation. And we will probably get this from Remy. But at the present time, it seems that it has already happened.
Indeed. Simulation is yes, it was occurred, and this is from our standpoint of the launch mission. And I think we need a different standpoint. This is start of the life of satellite into space. Confirmation of separation. CSO-2
There you go.
is separated.
So it's done. The job is done. Like we said, at the same time, everybody's trying to start supporting. So you see the thumbs up, victory. It's a successful launch. I can see the main importance of managers using fishbowl. And on the other side, they're all very happy. It's hard for all this full success, and we're all aware of this now. The penny has dropped, and we can't do a better end of the year for aerospace opinion. So there's development in aerospace. It's the last ending, isn't it?
Indeed, very nice end of the year. Pictures, the pictures speak for themselves. People would like to hug, but as a result of health constraints, because we didn't see this moment of collective joy, quite unique. Can't be blasé watching these pictures because every launch is really quite unique, quite special. Look at these pictures, it's tremendous.
So it's something new, actually.
This is a great relief, great pride of really fortunate and extraordinary.
Yeah, guys, that was the launch of CSO-2. I'm off in 25. Goodbye.